Okay, people. So I am fascinated around research, right? Scientific discovery. So I decided to check out King of Clones, ugh, a new Netflix documentary from director Aditya Thayi. Probably wrong. Probably got that wrong. Okay. It is produced by Sahir Karim, Aditya Thayi, executive producers, along with Kavitha Wijanton 10. Dan Deacon handles the music, Neil Harvey and Colm Whelan, cinematography, Simon Baker edits everything, Amira Rafi is on production management. Visual effects are handled by Elliot Riella. And right, the cast. Well, they speak to Hong Woo-sook. Also, we got Paul Root Wolp, Alex Tinson, Alexander Rubin, Ryu Young-jong, David Kransky, Sarah Chan, Ching Yong Kwan, Han Hak-soo, Kim Ji-un, and Lee Jae-suk. And there's a lot of archival footage of people like George W. Book, Yongji Kim, etc., etc. Now, the gist of the documentary is this: after rocking the world with his work in human cloning, a scientist falls a scientist falls from grace. Now he's back, this time with pets and extinct species. So the scientist in question is Hong Woo-sook, right? And yeah, like it's an interesting documentary in just, I think, some of the stuff they're talking about that you didn't realize, right? The different things they're cloning. Now, I remember one of the things I remember hearing back from a few years ago was the woolly mammoth, right? And the fact that they were like, "Yo, we're gonna clone a woolly mammoth," and it was just like, "What? What the fuck, man? Yo, this is crazy. This is crazy." And then you also think, I know Jurassic Park is a film, but but should we not pay attention, right? And you think about all of these things, and then when you read more about it, it's like they're using DNA that they got from cells, from bone marrow, this kind of stuff. But then they're using elephant DNA as well. And that is something that is brought up in this documentary, right? That when you're trying to supposedly bring back these extinct species, it's not necessarily that extinct species that you're bringing back, right? Because you have to utilize another animal's DNA to help you do this task. So you might be picking a species that is very similar, right? Or is the current iteration of what that species once was, you know? Like when you look at whales, crocodiles, I mean, so many things. right? The prehistoric version was huge a lot of the times, was a lot bigger, right? And that became extinct, and we have the version we have now. Now, with things like crocodile, they are fucking ancient, right? They are ancient. Crocodiles, sharks, whales, all of these sorts of things. But there has been some evolution, right, for these things to stay alive. You know, when you look at how much, sharks and whales and things like that have to eat to stay alive, right? Is kind of crazy. So there's all of this, right? There's this aspect of it. So that's where we kind of start off talking about these camels, Saudi racing camels. This one that was meant to be like great, and the fact he died, and then how they were thinking, oh, let's try and do something, So they talk about this whole process. So we start off talking about animals and cloning dogs, and Molly the sheep comes up, and then we get into this human stuff, which again, I remember hearing about this, right? And when it's talked about in this documentary, you do kind of think, okay, what the fuck? Right? Because I mean, when evidence and scientific research is so perfect, a lot of times it has definitely been doctored, right? Just because in that initial research, you're trying to find out what will work. So things aren't going to be perfect. There will be mistakes. And then you go on to another trial and you'll be like, okay, so that time we did this. All right, let's try this next time. So it'd be stuff like that. But when you have like perfect results, I think that brings up questions. Now, listen, maybe this one time things went perfect, but it should still warrant attention, right? It should still warrant attention. So it's real crazy when you have no one like going, this seems weird. This seems weird, especially there was a TV show, right? So a documentary, like hmm, gosh, I can't think of like I mean in the UK we had something called Panorama, right, which would look at certain things, expose scandals. So there was this Korean version of that essentially, and that guy was like, hold on, this sounds like I'm not sure. So he looked into it, and the show looked into it, but there wasn't a lot of other people. Now, I think some of that, right, you can think is cultural reasons, and I say cultural reasons, right, because you know in Korean society, you're not questioning things as much, right? You're when someone's like, this is for the country, this is for national pride, right? This is for this. You'd be like, yes, let's do it, right? You're not going to be like, no, we shouldn't do that. And the way, and this is the crazy thing, right? The way Hong would talk, right? He knew what he was saying, right? A lot of times it was, I want to do this to bridge the gap between North and South Korea, right? I want to do this to advance Korea in society, right? These nationalistic words, this rhetoric. And he did it with human cloning, and he's doing it now with, animal cloning. And it's very calculated, because when you say things like that, why wouldn't someone want to back you? People aren't going to go, no, no, I want to try and elevate our nation. Everyone's going to go, yeah, of course, we want to do that, you know. But I think the thing that I would really have liked from this documentary is more like more questioning of some of these people, you know? Because it's funny, they talk to Alex Tinson, um, who was the camel trainer, I believe, you know? And it's like he's just all like, yes, yes, yes. No, it's like people talk about cloning and they say it's bad, and I think no, we should do it. It's great. And I lost two daughters early on in life, and if someone had said you could clone them and bring them back, I'd be all for it. I'd be all for it. And it's just like, of course, because those things directly impact you. The camels impact your livelihood. You lost kids. I think if you said that to any fucking parent who has lost a kid, right? Anyone that's lost a loved one, even, they'll be like, yes, bring them back. Please bring them back. Right? But then when it's just like, oh, but I don't want anyone messing with my DNA. Oh man, no, I don't want. And it's just like, oh, okay. So you'll mess with these, but you don't want anyone to do that with you. Interesting. And he said it. That's it. Like when there should be follow-up questions, right? There should be follow-up questions, and we do not get anything. When they're talking to Hong Woo-suk, like, ugh, this dude is a douche, right? Because everything is just like, I believe I've been hit by God. I believe, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm sorry I lied. I shouldn't have done that, but I would do it again. And it's just like, yo, this dude is wacky McWackster, right? It's crazy how delusional this dude is. There's a guy he talked to, and he made a promise to his son. Right, his son was in a wheelchair. His son was ill, and he's like, "I will get you walking again." Yeah, he didn't. Right? I don't think there's any spoilers there, because that would have been news all over the shop, right? Didn't. But then he talks to the dad later, and dad's like, "I think you're here from God, and you should do this work." And blah blah. It's just like, it's fucked up, right? Just because I think you're having certain people talk who have lost, right? Who have suffered this horrific loss. Like, grief fucks you up. So I don't think we're getting anything sensible from these people. And then scientists lie, right? There's someone that's like, oh, I think we've been doing science wrong, and blah blah blah. And it's just like, it's nothing to do with science. This is nothing to do with science. This is people, right? It's people. People will do things to advance themselves. Because remember, a lot of this research, it's all on funding and grants. So you have to show certain results to continue that grant. Sometimes there's pressure, right? You might go to these people, to your backers, and say, look, this will take probably, I don't know, 5 to 10 years. to get anything meaningful. And they're like, "Oh, no, it sounds good. It sounds like valuable work." But they have stakeholder meetings and all of that kind of thing, and people will be asking questions like, over the last few years, we've been giving this money to this person. Like, what's the deal? When are we going to get results? And so then they're like, we need results. We need results. I don't think we're going to be able to give you money next year unless we hear something. Like, everyone's on our backs and blah, blah, blah. So you don't have the proper data. What's going to happen? A lot of the times, people, that data is then going to get manipulated, right? We saw it during the pandemic. A whole heap of these pharmaceutical companies manipulated data, right? And it's across the board. The amount of times it comes out that, data gets manipulated. Like, when you get peer-reviewed study, it's not all the data they send through, it's a select data they send through. So everything is fucking fishy, right? Because humans don't want to fail. Humans want to succeed, want to look like the big shotter. Everyone wants to be, the Don, right? The Don Dada. That's what they want to be. So, yeah, and it's not everyone. Not all scientists are bad and evil, but some are. We've seen it with sugar, right? That scientists got paid off to lie about how bad sugar could be for you. Blamed it on other products, like what they blamed it on: butter, oil, olive oil. They blamed it on all of these other things. I mean, like, no, sugar's absolutely fine. It's these other things we need to be careful of. Straight lie, right? Scientists lie about the climate, lied about tobacco, but nothing happens. And that was right. It's hard to put people in jail. It's hard, right? Even though we've seen the damage they do, we've seen the damage these lies do, but still, nothing really happens. People just change their focus, right? It went from tobacco to climate with a lot of these people, you know? Heung-min went from human cloning to animal cloning. It's just what happens. But yeah, look, this documentary is interesting, but it doesn't ask any hard-hitting questions. Now, I don't know if that's because to get interviews, they had to promise not to ask anything, right? Which then I'd say, why even bother? What's the point? Right? Because you just get this tepid piece, right? Because you're not asking the hard-hitting questions. You're letting these people ramble on about how they've been put here by God and that, what they're doing wasn't really that wrong and blah, 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 right? That's the problem. It doesn't resolve anything. Doesn't resolve anything. So while King of Clones is interesting, it's not satisfying. It's not satisfying at all, So yeah, I think that's what you need to think about when going into this, I think. Right? What are you looking? If you're looking for answers, this ain't giving you diddly squat. Right? If you're just intrigued, yeah, could be worth a watch, people. But it's on Netflix and it's live right now.